If it was an accident or, you know, if it was on purpose or, you know, like drunk driving, we don't know that.
Tonight, grief-stricken family and friends of a young woman are still trying to piece together how she died.
We're there to represent the views and make the space for First Nations and communities to create their own self-determination.
Canada's Chiefs re-elected Perry Bellegarde. What happens now depends on who you ask.
We now have examples of legal personhood, legal personality being conferred on rivers, landscapes and mountains.
And a Maori leader tells his counterparts in the Yukon how his people have laid down the law in New Zealand.
Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. A candlelight vigil was held for Brittany Martel this week in Hay River, Northwest Territories. The 27-year-old was found dead outside Merritt, British Columbia at the end of July. She'd been missing for more than a month. It didn't take long for police to say her death was not suspicious, but for the family, there are still many questions. APTN's Charlotte Moore-Jacobs explains why.
Just as this flame burns brightly, so too will the memory of the daughter, sister, and friend, Brittany Martel.
That's the kind of person she was. Now I'm glad people come visit. Must see Joe.
The community of Katlodetche First Nation in the Northwest Territories is visibly shaken as they mourn Martel, who was found dead in a ditch near Merritt, BC on July 22nd. She was only 27.
We pray this in Jesus' name.
When she returned home, APTN reached out to Martel for a story on greyhound cuts. She left this voicemail.
Hi, this is Brittany Martel calling. I got your message on Facebook, well, Messenger, and I am interested in, you know, if you're interested in my story of how I went to hitchhiking, or, you know, it's very long, you know, I would tell you day by day what I went through. And
she was missing a short while. I prayed for her to be safe out there. And then she showed up to me one day across. She came back. Oh, I gave her a big hug and we both cried. I said, oh, I'm so happy to see you. She says, me too. I said, I'm so glad you're okay. And that was the last time I hugged her. That was the last time I talked to her.
She come running to me and she hugged me. She said, you know, I made it back to Hay River. I said, that's good. And she's always a happy person like that.
And just like that, Brittany hitchhiked back down to BC.
We always told her, we're afraid for you. We want you to stay home. We want you to stay here. Auntie, I'll be back. I'll be back.
APTN was unsuccessful in reaching Brittany, and her family would not see her alive again.
We have to be mindful of all the other families that are going through this, where they don't have answers.
Her Aunt Dolly Martel, like many, do not understand why the RCMP say the case is not suspicious.
When they tell you it's non-suspicious, it's like a stab in the heart. I made a promise to Brittany that I'm going to find answers.
The RCMP told the family that Brittany was found with no bruises or cuts, but she was missing her shoes and cell phone.
From what I saw in the videos of where she was found, like if you walked with no shoes and dressed nice and clean, like, you know, wouldn't you have some wear and tear on your clothes from walking through the thick brush that way?
The RCMP say they don't think there was any foul play. The coroner suggested a closed casket because she was badly decomposed.
That was another blow to us because, like, you know, we our tradition is like we make the sisters and the aunts, they go and they bathe her and dress her and stuff like that, and that was one way that it would bring us more closures.
Dolly says she believes someone out there knows something.
She was in contact with some people when she left again, and there was rumors that she met up with her boyfriend, and there was rumors about the people she went with, and it was just so many unanswered questions.
An autopsy was performed but did not find a cause of death. Now they wait on blood tests. Mourning and wanting answers. Charlotte Mort Jacobs, APTN National News, Kayla Arkinson, First Nation.
Thank you.
It's been 6 weeks since the body of Kayla Arkinson was found on the Saugeen First Nation in Manitoba. RCMP say the 25-year-old was struck twice by 2 separate vehicles while walking home. A vigil was held at the spot where Arkinson's body was found. And as Brittany Hobson shows us, the day was not just for remembering, but for healing as well.
Under the sweltering heat of the sun, the family of Kayla Arkinson prepares to honor her life. A handmade cross sits near the spot where the 25-year-old's body was found 6 weeks ago.
She was just starting to realize the purpose of her life, and then this happened. And it's sad that she can't do what she wants to do now.
Jamie Prince remembers her cousin as bubbly and a good mother to her 2 children. The 2 were together at a graduation party the night before Arkinson's body was found about 6 meters from her home. The next morning, Prince was on her way to work when she saw part of the highway blocked off.
I was looking, and then I looked through a spot of trees, and there was somebody laying on the road. And that was just my first thought, Kayla.
On June 24th, RCMP released a statement saying they were called to Highway 11 in Saugeen after a 48-year-old male struck a female. She was pronounced deceased on the scene. Police later determined she had been struck earlier by another vehicle. The family says the case remains open.
When the days go by, it's more like I'm just living them day by day, doing what I have to do for now. And once I get used to everything, I feel like I can finally start getting back into what I used to do, where I'd go out, explore places.
For Clarissa Latonder, the vigil is giving her a chance to heal and remember her sister's life.
It's more about remembering her for who she was, how she liked to live life. It's more celebrating that she was at least able to live life.
This isn't the first tragedy for the family. Inside the Arkinson home, pictures of Kayla are on display next to her younger brother Tyler. The 14-year-old went missing in March 2010. His body was found 3 months later in Saugeen.
It just seems like with Tyler, everyone forgot right away, and they just stopped trying. And with Kayla, we still don't know who hit her, and if it was an accident or, if it was on purpose or, like drunk driving. We don't know that.
The family says no one was ever arrested. APTN reached out to RCMP multiple times but never received a response.
It's important to us that they keep trying, to find justice for her, and I just don't want them to forget her.
Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Saugeen First Nation.
Northwestern British Columbia is experiencing aggressive wildfires. Telegraph Creek, home to the Tahltan First Nation, was evacuated over the long weekend. The entire community of approximately 250 residents got the evacuation order Sunday night. Tahltan First Nations members were moved to neighboring communities. Everyone is on standby and awaiting updates on the condition of their homes. The wildfire is still active and moving.
So far, all the people have been evacuated from Telegraph Creek, including the people who've gone to fish camps. So our people who've been visiting there for working on fish, they've all been evacuated as well. So we don't know if our homes in our community burnt down last night. And that's what we're waiting on right now.
As of Tuesday afternoon, we're told that 27 homes in Telegraph Creek have been lost due to the wildfires. For more info, you can go to Telegraph Creek Fire's Facebook page. There's lots of info and updates there. It's time for a short break. When we come back, some meaningful reconciliation in New Zealand. But first, here's tomorrow's weather forecast.
I'm Kent Driscoll in Iqaluit, and this is a pop-up craft market. Nunavut's growing tourism industry is looking for ways to benefit the artists who call Nunavut home. This craft market is one of those ways, and we'll see just why it popped up. That's coming soon on APTN National News.
To the East Coast, St. John's, partly sunny and cloudy, 25, 26 in Charlottetown, and cloud in 29 in Fredericton. We've got 13 in Nujak, 21 in Kuujjuaq, 14 in Nain. Sunny and 26 in Chibougamau, sunny in Sept-Îles, 23, Gas 24, 25 and sunny in North Bay, 26 and sunny in Sault Ste. Marie, 26 and cloudy in Toronto. 23 up in Big Trout Lake with some cloud 2 in Kapuskasing, and 27 as well in Timmins. 20 and sunny in Churchill, 22 in Pucktawagan, 24 in Thompson. 28 in Barons River and Harbour. 29 in Gimli and Winnipeg. 32 in North Battleford, 30 in Saskatoon, 31 in Yorkton. 22 in Uranium City and Stony Rapids, 27 in Buffalo Narrows.
Welcome back. Maori tribes in New Zealand are making their own headway with reconciliation, and part of that is legislation that designates some of their sacred sites as legal persons. Shirley McLean has more.
A small delegation of Maori from Taranaki, New Zealand, are touring the Yukon, sharing a bit of their culture and their knowledge and how they were successful in making sacred places like rivers and mountains as legal persons. Jamie Tuta says New Zealand is going through their own reconciliation process.
We've been able to do through the processes to basically convince the New Zealand government on the back of previous examples that we can actually, at law, recognise our mountain as his own legal person at law.
The Maori used legislation in 2017 to designate Mount Taranaki as a person. 8 local Maori tribes and the New Zealand government now share guardianship of the sacred mountain. With Mount Taranaki now declared as a person, it means if someone abuses or harms it, it is legally the same as harming the tribe.
We now have examples of legal personhood, legal personality being conferred on rivers, landscapes and mountains. And so what we like about that is the fact that we've always viewed these places as ancestors and having a deep connection to them. And for the first time, that worldview, that Maori worldview and our perspective about place and these landscapes and rivers is being acknowledged in the legal system.
The Karkras First Nation hosted the Maori delegation. Former Chief Mark Wedge traveled to New Zealand earlier this year to learn more about the legislation.
Because where we're at with our Indigenous land use planning is very similar kind of processes. How do we incorporate our traditional values and traditional knowledge and those virtues and values into legislation? And we have to do it obviously within the legislative framework of Canada. So we're beginning to research that. Right? We know that from a traditional point of view is that we know that these mountains have names, a spirit, and all those things. But to give them that legal personhood is something that we're very much looking at.
Wedge says it will be up to the elders of Karkras Tagish to deem what landscapes and waterways in their territory they would like to be named as a person.
How I see it is it's all part of that progression around how we advance our interests as a people, how we reclaim our place, how we build our identity and confidence to be able to be Maori. We say kia Maori, to be Maori and to be able to celebrate who we are and what we believe.
To Maori, Mount Taranaki is a revered volcanic peak. It was already deemed a national park, but the Maori voice and way of life was absent. Shirley McLean, APTN National News, Karkras, Yukon.
Very interesting stuff. There was no shortage of drama at the AFN election in Vancouver last month. Along with the 5 candidates for national chief, there were young people and grassroots also calling for change. But one regional chief says Perry Bellegarde is on the right track. APTN's Angel Moore explains.
You have no respect. No, you came into my space on my land.
How some people feel about the current state of the AFN was on full display at this year's election.
That's a difference of opinion. That's a difference of opinion.
Here, a Bellegarde supporter takes issue with a young person who had written a derogatory message on a re-elect Perry Bellegarde t-shirt. Young people are getting restless. There was a sense of change in the air, that chiefs would vote for a national chief to take the organization in a different direction. But in the end, Perry Bellegarde was re-elected as national chief.
Better housing, better education, better health care, and yes, lands and resources coming back to First Nations people.
And this regional chief is a supporter.
We're there to represent the views and make the space for First Nations and communities to create their own self-determination and their own self-government. You know, and I think National Chief has done a great job doing that.
Bellegarde has another 3-year term to get things done his way. But some say the AFN is too cozy with Ottawa and are calling for change. Candidate Russ Diabo says Ottawa is hijacking our right to self-determination and imposing policies without our input which will affect us for generations.
This organization is basically controlled by the Trudeau government. And I'm saying to the people who are watching, it's really up to you now, because it's clear that this organization is not going to reform itself. It's going to have to happen from the outside.
But Gugu says the AFN is a lobby group where good relationships are important.
If you're going to have people hear our vision, they got to see clearly and hear clearly what you're asking for and where you want to go. And that's crucial to have a good relationship with our Prime Minister.
A common complaint is the AFN has lost connection with people. Pam Palmater, a professor at Ryerson University, has felt that way for a long time. 6 years ago, she ran against Sean Atleo for national chief under a banner of change. She lost, but is still speaking out.
Right now, it's an empire building. How much money and staff can we get from the federal government? And that doesn't translate on the ground at all to First Nations. That doesn't translate into housing or anything for First Nations.
Gugu has faith in the AFN and says it was created for communities and leaderships to come together.
Nation building happens within your nations, you know, and it's those visions and those structures and governance structures and systems that have to be raised to be recognized, reaffirmed, and reconciled.
Gugu says that's where the AFN has to take those visions. But the youth and the grassroots are getting louder and stronger. And some say that one day the voices of the people may have more input than the chiefs. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Halifax.
We have to go to another break after the rest of tomorrow's weather, but stick around, we still have lots more news to come. To Alberta, 28 and sunny and high level, 27 and sunny in Fort Chip, 29 and sunny in Peace River. 32 in Edmonton, 31 in Red Deer, 32 in Calgary, lots of sunshine there. 38 and windy in Kamloops, 37 and sunny in Penticton, 31 in Victoria. 17 in Dease Lake, 28 in Fort Nelson, 26 in Fort St. John. 11 in Old Crow, Dawson City is 16 and Whitehorse 19. 10 in Norman Wells, 19 in Wrigley, and 20 in Yellowknife. Up in Sax Harbor, 4. Tuck is 4 as well. Down in Deline, it's 14. Cambridge Bay is 10. Baker Lake, 16. 10 in Chesterfield. 1 in Resolute, 7 in Arctic Bay, 6 in Igloolik. A Montreal eatery is providing work for homeless people in the city. The Roundhouse Cafe is located in the heart of an area that is frequented by homeless people, many of whom are Inuit. APTN's Daniel Rochette met up with one of the workers at the cafe.
Nathan Tony Aragutarik is from Sanikuluk, Nunavut. He has been in Montreal since November 2017 and is homeless. But on this day, he's working at the Roundhouse Cafe for a 3-hour shift.
It's blessing. It's a very blessing. Get to make money. Get to see my friends. Yeah, it's a blessing.
Open from May to October, the Roundhouse Cafe is working hard, building relationship with Indigenous people and organizations. Charles-Éric Lavery thinks that collaboration is essential.
So we created that bond, that relationship, and kind of that structure for the program. And the first participant came to work on July 5th.
Marianne is the key person to welcome the people willing to work.
C'est vraiment d'accueillir la personne vraiment sur le plateau de travail, l'accueillir, essayer de la connaître un petit peu, créer un lien pour qu'elle se sente à l'aise, qu'elle ne soit pas trop stressée, vu que des fois c'est des personnes soit qui n'ont jamais travaillé ou que ça fait longtemps qu'ils ont travaillé.
So far, l'itinéraire has hired 10 homeless people. Its goal is to hire 20 over the summer. They also want to improve their program and offer more opportunities. For Lavery, it takes time to implement that kind of program, but he is optimistic.
Someone can say at the end of I hope so, at the end, like, oh, I've worked in a couple of shifts at Roundhouse. Because of that, it gave me the feeling, the positive feeling of being able to do things in my life. So now I have, housing. Now I have, I want to find a job. So we're not at that stage right now. It's at the start.
Jamie Krapp, an outreach worker for Projet Autochtone du Québec, is enthusiastic about that project.
Those that are struggling in life and living on the streets, it gives them an opportunity to feel a part of, feel like they're not alone, to prove to themselves that they are capable of working.
Nathan is certainly proving that he's capable of holding a job, and despite his difficult situation, he keeps hope.
Trying to make myself happy. Trying to do what I want to do. I would love to work out full time, but I'm in a difficult situation right now. Kind of homeless.
The cafe will close at the end of October, but everybody agrees this kind of project should continue next year and be expanded. Daniel Rochette, APTN National News, Montreal.
That's all the news we have for you today, Tuesday, August 7th, 2018. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Thanks for joining me. But before you go, I leave you with this. A researcher on a shark boat was using a camera on a pole to take underwater photos. But the shark did not stay underwater. Watch.
I think I see him there. Whoa! Holy crap! It jumped right out of the water! See that? Man! Did you see that? Get that on a boat. It was right up. This thing was running. Did you guys see that? Wow!